Hi, this is Laura with 8th House, and today I'm going to talk to you a little bit about why you might want to be reading your horoscope for your rising sign, either instead of or in addition to your sun sign. When an astrologer recommends that you read your horoscope for your rising sign, it's because of how astrology works, and it doesn't really have anything to do with how much you identify with your rising sign. If you were going to see an astrologer every month for them to tell you what was coming up during the month, what they would do is they would use your birth information, your day of birth, your time of birth, and your location of birth to determine what the position of the parts of the sky was when you were born. And the main thing that they'd be looking at is what part of the sky was coming up over the horizon at the time that you were born in the place that you were born. And that sign is called your rising sign. So that part of the sky that was coming up over the horizon, that becomes your first house. I'm talking about whole sign houses here. And then all the parts of the sky that were above the horizon, they become the 12th house, 11th house, 10th house, 9th house, 8th house, part of the 7th house. And then everything that was below the horizon, in other words, people in your part of the world absolutely could not have seen these parts of the sky. Those become part of the 7th house, 6th house, 5th house, 4th house, 3rd house, 2nd house, and part of the 1st house in all likelihood too. So that's part of how we derive the meanings of the houses, is what was above the horizon and what was below the horizon. And the houses are how we understand what parts of your life are affected by the planets. So when an astrologer is looking at your month, they're looking at how the current planet movements are moving through your houses. So let's say you are an Aries rising and Leo is your 5th house. Well, the astrologer knows that if Mars is moving through Leo that month, your creativity and your self-expression are being affected in some way. Specifically by Mars's energy. That's basically what astrology is, putting together the meaning of the planet with the meaning of the sign, the meaning of the house, and often with the meaning of other planets that it's interacting with. Similarly, when an astrologer is writing a horoscope, they take a sign and they look at what houses would be affected for that sign if that sign was the rising sign in a chart. The type of astrology that is this predictive, where you use a rising sign to see what's going to happen for an individual, that used to be much less accessible than it is now. I mean, we can go to the internet and type in our birthday and find out our rising sign. And when astrology was being popularized in the West, people had to go to an astrologer for that astrologer to do a pretty expensive process to lay out their birth chart. And that just wasn't something that most people were doing. So you couldn't popularize astrology by telling people to read for their rising sign. And even now, telling people to read for their rising sign can be confusing because a lot of the time, especially if people are first getting into it, they don't even know what their rising sign is. And I think this other effect is that because people have been reading for their sun sign for so long, they feel weird about reading for their rising sign because it feels like it's invalidating what they've gotten from reading their horoscope for their sun sign. So what I would say to that is that reading for your sun sign actually can have some interesting applications. When you do look at somebody's sun sign as if it's their rising sign, you start to find really interesting correspondences with the stuff you see going on in their chart in the traditional way, looking at it by their rising sign. So you can get this kind of more filled out picture, like kind of you see the specifics of what's going on in somebody's life by looking at their horoscope by their rising sign. And then you get these interesting, like sort of thematic details unfolding when you look at it for the sun sign. I think there's certain times of year when your sun sign horoscope is going to feel more on the money. And those times of year are basically like in the months around your birthday, like a month before and a month after. And then also, if you look out 6 months, the time that's sort of opposite on the wheel, it can start to feel a little more relevant. And that's basically just because you're having planets get lit up during that time that's close to your birthday, and they're also getting lit up when it's like the opposite time of year because oppositions are happening a lot of the time. And so it starts to, those sun sign horoscopes start to have more resonance during those times. And they just like sort of key in on particular themes that are going on in your life at that time. It's not wrong to read your horoscope for your sun sign, but you ought to try reading for your rising sign too, because that's the closest thing you can get to going to an astrologer by reading your horoscope. All right, that's all I've got for today. Thank you so much for watching. There is a free astrological planner available on my website right now. I hope you'll check that out. It's the number 8th.house if you want to get that planner. And I'll see you soon. Bye. So, I feel like my eyes are bad. So, in the last video I did, I had access to my local library's recording equipment, which included a green screen. I don't have access to that this week, so we're just doing it in my office, in front of my pink bowl tapestry, which makes it look a little bit like I have horns.